Hi, welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about immigration just a second. Oh, by the way, one other example of how this diversity push actually harms the people it is supposed to help. The city of Houston is looking at hiring minority lifeguards even if they can't swim. I kid you not. They want to hire minority lifeguards, Hispanic or black, even if they can't swim a lick. They say, hey, we'll teach you how to swim. And the reason is they say most of the people that use our public pools are Hispanic or black. So we want to have lifeguards. We want to have diversity in our lifeguards. Well, what are they doing? Stop and think about this. Instead of basing their decision on merit, I mean, if you look at a situation here where we are talking about the lives of young people, the lives of children. That's what we're talking about. They're the ones that go to these public pools. These are children. They're young. And the reason you have lifeguards is to guard their lives. I mean, they're there for a reason, to keep people from drowning. Now, if you're looking for lifeguards, then you should have one criterion and one criterion only: who's the best swimmer, the best lifeguard we can get. I don't care what his color is. I don't care what his creed is. I don't care what his ethnic background is. I just want somebody that can swim and pull people out of a pool. That should be the only criterion, because lives literally are at stake. But Houston, in all their wisdom, say we're going to get them based on the color of their skin. We don't even care if they can swim. We don't care if they can save a minority life. So who's put at risk here by this apparently enlightened policy? Well, it's Hispanic kids and black kids, because they get in trouble. The chances are they won't have a lifeguard that can pull their bacon out of the fire and save their very life. Now, let's talk about the immigration thing here just for a second. You know, Marco Rubio, now Marco Rubio's trying to slow the train down. He wants hearings. He wants a whole bunch of hearings. Back in the 1986 bill, they had hundreds of hours of hearings. That bill took 3 years to come to fruition. And it was a terrible bill. It was amnesty without enforcement. That's exactly what it was. Ronald Reagan fell for it. They promised him, hey, you give us amnesty, we'll get you enhanced security. The enhanced security never came. Got the legalization, no enhanced border security. And we've got Jason Chaffetz down on the border yesterday, and he's talking about people just streaming across the border. He even went to one place where the border doesn't even have a fence. It's got a sidewalk with guardrails, where you can walk from one country right into the other, no checkpoint, no fence, no nothing. So it's just a complete, utter disaster down there. Janet Napolitano's out there saying, hey, with these sequester, we're going to have whole sections of the border that are going to be unprotected. We're going to have these kind of rolling blackouts on different parts of the border. We're just not going to have the manpower to be able to provide coverage for those portions of the border. Now, Chuck Schumer's driving the train here. Marco Rubio is a part of this, and I want to get your reaction. What you think about the amnesty bill, number one. What you think about evangelicals pushing this. Most of the people listening to this program are evangelicals. What do you think about the fact that evangelicals are pushing for amnesty? And these are evangelical names that you would know and you would recognize if I gave you their names. These are evangelical leaders. These are not sort of invisible below the radar evangelicals. These are people that are at the top of the evangelical pyramid, and they are pushing amnesty. They're preparing ads. They are running ads in newspapers. They're having press conferences. They've even got an ad that they prepared that says, if you don't believe in amnesty, you're going to hell. I mean, that's essentially the point of it. They quote Jesus, the sheep and the goats. You know, when did we not take care of you and depart from me and go into the eternal fires of hell? That's what these evangelical evangelical leaders are saying, that you're going to hell if you don't agree with us about amnesty. Guys like Richard Land, for instance, he's retiring as the head of the Southern Baptist Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission, and Richard Land is kind of leading the charge on amnesty. Let's ignore the rule of law. Let's ignore a sovereign border with Mexico. Let's just grant amnesty to everybody. Now, Chuck Schumer's the guy that's driving this train, and I think what's happened with Marco Rubio is I think Marco Rubio has realized that he's getting played in this deal and that he made a huge mistake by signing on with the Amnesty 8. And I think that's why he's trying to delay things. He's looking for some kind of escape hatch. I think he wants to turn this thing into the Amnesty 7. He thought this was going to be good for his political future when he signed on because he misread the way the winds were blowing, and he thought that the base was behind amnesty. They're not. In fact, the American people just in general are not behind this. I've got the results of a poll right here today. By the way, the Republicans indicating that this amnesty plan, the Rubio amnesty plan, has a loophole in it that could wind up costing taxpayers trillions of dollars for welfare. This piece by Katie Pavlich, Town Hall. Jeff Sessions says the current Gang of Eight immigration reform proposal includes a major flaw that could lead to taxpayers footing the bill for trillions of dollars worth of federal welfare benefits for millions of illegal immigrants. This is what Sessions says. Specifically, there is nothing in the framework to apply federal public charge law to those in the country illegally before they are granted legal status. Right now, the law is very, very clear that if somebody is there's a chance that somebody could wind up being on the public dole, they're not to be allowed in the country. It's very clear. This is Section 212 of the Immigration and Nationality Act. An alien who, in the opinion of the consular officer at the time of application for a visa, or in the opinion of the Attorney General at the time of application for admission or adjustment of status, is likely at any time to become a public charge, is inadmissible. If somebody in the judgment, the opinion of the consular, just in his opinion, if he thinks that they are likely at any time in the future, any time looking 10 years down the road, and in his judgment, this person is likely to be on welfare, they are inadmissible. They are not to be permitted in the United States of America. And Sessions says there's nothing in this Amnesty 8 bill that Marco Rubio is behind that would require that provision of the law be applied to those that are going to be given legalization. They're in the country illegally right now, and there's nothing that would keep them from immediately qualifying for all kinds of welfare benefits if they are legalized. And according to Sessions, 1 in 3 immigrant-headed households currently participate in at least one major welfare program. I think the total is about 36%. So you got 33 to 36% of households that are headed by immigrants right now are dependent on welfare. And the law says if there is any likelihood ever at any point for the rest of their lives that they would become dependent on welfare, they are not to be allowed in the program. Now, here is Chuck Schumer. You know, Marco Rubio is out there saying we got to secure the borders first. That's not what Chuck Schumer's saying, and Marco Rubio is a part of this plan. Here is Chuck Schumer, and listen to what he says comes first and what comes after what comes first. Let's listen.
So look, we've come to a basic agreement, which is that first people will be legalized. In other words, not citizens, but they'll be allowed to work, come out of the shadows, travel. Then we will make sure the border is secure. And we have specific metrics that are in the bill. I'm not going to get into what they are to make sure that that happens. And after that happens, there's a path to citizenship.
So there's Chuck Schumer saying legalization first. First thing we're going to do is we're going to legalize 11 to 12 million people. It could be as high as 20 million. And Marco Rubio is on board with this. Marco Rubio is supporting this. Let's instantly legalize all 11 or 12 million people. Schumer says we got an agreement. Amnesty 8, we've got an agreement. I want to know what you think about legalization first and border security after. That's what happened in 1986. President Reagan fell for that bilge. Here's a piece, National Review, by Andrew Stiles. With respect to immigration reform in particular, Republicans recall the pivotal role that then Congressman Schumer played in crafting the 1986 immigration bill, which one aide described as amnesty without enforcement. Additionally, despite voting for legislation that same year that would have required illegal immigrants to pay up to 3 years of back taxes, Schumer wrote a letter urging the Treasury Department to immediately exempt newly legalized residents from that requirement, an objective he achieved with the passage of subsequent tax legislation in 1988. So in other words, The 1986 bill said you got to pay fines and back taxes, and Schumer immediately went to work and got rid of that. I mean, there's no reason to think that people that are legalized here are going to be required to pay back taxes or fines. Chuck Schumer is going to see to that. And Schumer is crafty. He's wily. He's got a veteran staff. And you got people, Andrew Stiles in this piece saying, hey, Marco Rubio is getting played here for a chump. Chuck Schumer is going to wrap him right around the axle. Let's go to Hosea, Hampton, North Carolina. Hosea, welcome to Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Hey, how's it going, Brian? I really appreciate you having me on the show, and I also really appreciate your show. It's definitely given me a huge insight on a lot of things that are happening around the world and in our country.
Good. Well, thank you.
I just wanted to talk to you about the immigration. As a Hispanic American, I 100% agree with you that by no means should we pass any type of amnesty bill that would allow illegal immigrants to automatically get citizenship. And one of the biggest bases is, of course, for me, is security of our country, primarily from the influx of foreigners that don't have our best interests at hand as Americans. Now, I understand to a certain degree, because I grew up with parents that immigrated from Mexico, the reason why they would move thousands of miles away from their homes. The government of Mexico is obviously extremely corrupt. It's a failing economy. It's a socialistic economy that, even though they say it's a welfare type of system, it really doesn't provide any type of benefits. And also, the crime rate runs rapid down in Mexico. So looking at it from that perspective and growing it, I can understand all these things and why Hispanics, Mexicans specifically, want to immigrate to the United States. 100% agree with it. But unfortunately, the illegal immigration is causing both midterm and long-term effects to our country that are going to 100% dissolve our American government. And what I mean by that is, again, like you were talking about, the welfare system. Yes, short-term, these illegal immigrants are taking benefits that should be provided to the United States citizens. The long-term, the consequences are a total collapse of our economy and eventually our loss of our own liberties, as is happening right now with the fact of what they call diversification.
Yeah, all right, Jose. Listen, I'm out of time. I'm sorry. I have to cut you off there, but I appreciate your phone call and appreciate the information you're giving us there. Focal Point AFR Talk. We'll be right back with more calls after this.